Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. Black Christmas was a 1974 Canadian so-called slasher film that was produced and directed by Bob Clark, and it was written by A. Roy Moore. It stars Olivia Hussey, Keir Dullea, Margot Kidder, Andrea Martin, Lynn Griffin, and John Saxon. The film is inspired by the urban legend, The Babysitter and the Man Upstairs, and a series of murders that took place in Montreal, Quebec. The screenwriter wrote the screenplay under the title Stop Me. Filmmakers made numerous alterations to the original script, primarily the shifting to a university setting with young adult characters. It was shot in Toronto on an estimated budget of $686,000, and it went on to be distributed by Warner Brothers in North America. Upon its release, it received pretty much mixed reviews, but it has since received critical reappraisal. It's also praised for the influence of John Carpenter's Halloween from 1978. Aside from earning a cult following since its release, a novel was written by Lee Hayes that was published in 1976. The storyline goes that on the evening that Phi Kappa Sigma sorority is holding their Christmas party, the house receives the latest in a string of obscene calls from who the girls call the Moaner, but who identifies himself as Billy. Some, like Jess Bradford, don't like the calls at all, while others, like Barb Cord, are somewhat amused by them. Straight-laced Claire Harrison is completely offended by them. These calls are just the latest trouble for Jess, who is pregnant and who doesn't want to tell her sensitive but volatile boyfriend, Peter, about the problem. For this latest call, which is a bit more elaborate than those previous, Barb decides to make a snide comment in return, which provokes a threat by Billy. The next morning, one of the girls goes missing. The desk sergeant at the police station doesn't think much about this missing person case. The police don't act until more information is brought to the attention of Lieutenant Kenneth Fuller by Claire's boyfriend. As Lieutenant Fuller and his men investigate, which includes placing a wiretap on the sorority house phones, more and more incidents happen to those living at the house. In addition, the obscene calls continue and increasingly have a personal connotation to one of the girls, which includes information that could only be known by those involved. Or is there another reason why the caller knows so much about the specific girl in question? According to the director, Bob Clark, the original script for the film featured murder scenes that were much more graphic. Clark, however, felt that it would be more effective if the murders were toned down and kept subtle on the screen. The movie is really regarded as being one of the very first slasher films. It really did set the layout for such future films as John Carpenter's Halloween. But Bob Clark doesn't consider it a slasher film. He thinks of it more as a psychological horror movie. And I kind of see it that way too. NBC had scheduled the movie for its primetime network debut on January 28, 1978. They did a little bit of additional cutting to the film and retitled it Stranger in the House. But on January 15, 1978, 2 female students at Florida State University were murdered by an assailant who broke into the sorority house that they lived in. NBC received numerous pleas from locals to pull the movie from broadcast in light of these crimes. NBC originally was going to leave it up to the local affiliates as to whether they broadcast the film or not, but eventually NBC pulled the plug on the movie altogether. Instead, they aired the film Doc Savage, Man of Bronze. The perpetrator of the crimes at Florida State University was later identified as serial killer Ted Bundy. The audio for the demented phone calls was edited into the film during post-production. While shooting that footage for the phone call scenes, the actresses were actually just reacting to threatening dialogue that was being spoken by the director, Bob Clark, off camera. Legend has it that this was Elvis Presley's favorite film, and his tradition was to watch it every Christmas. Further rumors say that his family kept the tradition alive and watched it in his memory. If true, Elvis would have celebrated this tradition a maximum of only 2 times before his untimely death in August of 1977, less than 3 years after the film's initial release. Despite its ominous themes and plot, Olivia Hussey reassured everybody that the set was very light and a happy place between takes, stating that everybody got along real well with each other. Miss Hussey was popular from the 1968 version of Romeo and Juliet with Leonard Whiting. They were both just teenagers when they electrified audiences with this film. That movie was a hit and was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, but it also stirred up controversy over a bedroom scene, which included images of Whiting's bottom and Hussey's bare topside. Both of these actors were in their 70s when they filed a lawsuit in Santa Monica Superior Court accusing Paramount of exploiting them by distributing these images of them as adolescent children. They were both assured that when they did the film, there would be no nudity at all in it, that they would wear flesh-colored undergarments in the bedroom scene. But in the final days of filming, the director allegedly implored them to perform without anything on, saying that if they didn't, the picture would probably fail. Hussey was 15 at the time and Whiting was 16. The director showed them where the camera would be placed and assured them that nothing on their body would be photographed and released in the film. But that's not the case. Hussey does an excellent job in Black Christmas, and I think it's worth your time to go back and find a viewing of this because it's a very well done film. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.